So, hello there and welcome to another Budget Model Railways video. We haven't done a Tutorial Tuesday for a while for a number of reasons, but we're very busy with other things. This is a little project I've had. You'll all know that I'm a big fan of the Hornby 040 locos, and I also like restoring locos. I think it's nice to see something that's past its best being restored and being a useful loco again. So this one I got as part of a job lot, didn't know if it would work. Effectively, by the time I'd sold the rest of the bits of the job lot that I didn't want, this loco cost me about £3. So it's a really seriously cheap loco. So as you can see, it's in a bit of a state. Somebody's tried to take the paint off. I'm not quite sure why, because it was a really nice colour scheme, this one, but perhaps they had a problem with it. They've made a bit of a mess of it and obviously then given up. In fact, as I'll mention in a minute, they've also done some damage with the paint remover. So it's in a bit of a worse state than it looks. But this is what I started with. So now I'll show you how we restored it. So that shows you what it looked like when we got it. One of the first things to do is really to make sure that your chassis is going to work properly. There's no point spending a lot of time repainting the body only to find that the chassis is a poor runner. Now, I'm a huge fan of these 040s, as everybody knows, but they can be a bit hit and miss running wise. Actually, this version tends to be quite good, but it's not a given, and obviously I bought it as a non-runner. Now, actually, when I took it apart, you can see the motor is quite clean. It's still got its weight. I've added a little bit of lead weight here, just to help with the running. Given the wheels are clean, I just use a fine sanding block because they were very mucky. I've given a little bit of oil on the coupling rods there and also on your wheel here and your little bearing in there. And now I find the little bearing in there, tiny little drop, makes a big difference. Now what I've done is, we won't start this debate on 3-in-1 oil again. We've done it to death in our other videos. But what I have found is that when you get the nozzle, you can get it quite fine. So actually I can put a little drop. And as we know from all our earlier videos, it's not the oil really that's the problem. It's the volume that you use. So that turned out, in fact, after half an hour's running on my layout, to be a really nice little smooth runner. So that's a bit of a result. So that brings us then to our body. What I've done here is given it a coat of what I use as undercoat. So that's, these came with cheap Airfix kits. I think this is a kind of pale blue, but I find it makes a very good undercoat, but you do need to let it really dry overnight. Now, I found a bit more damage than I knew. This part of the back here, turns out that was loose. I glued that on. Whatever paint stripper he'd used, he'd had the same problem I had when I did a Lima loco, and it softened the plastic and the cab had sagged. So that was quite easy. I pushed it back up and glued it, and I've also had some rippling on the top here which I've had to sand away, but apart from that, not too bad. I've given it a big coat of undercoat for a number of reasons. I don't want to copy any particular loco. I wanted to run this as a freelance one. Now, one of the things I find is there was two browns that I decided I wanted to use. The best way of seeing what they're going to look like is to paint underneath. So this is a bit of a red shade and that's a chocolate brown, and that's what I'm going to use. So it's going to be very nice, chocolate brown. Pick out all the handrails, black roof, black boiler box and so on. That's going to be quite nice when it's done. So we'll just start painting this now, and then that'll give you an idea. Now all I use is, I use brushes. I don't use spray cans for these projects, but I do use a very soft brush. Makes all the difference. So all we're going to do, soft brush like that, and I find this Umbro RC paint covers well, dries quickly, don't need to go putting lots of coats on. There we go, and it gives a matte finish. So there we go, that's the brown done. And then what we're going to do later is we'll touch the black cab roof, boiler, so on, do the dome bronze, and generally pick out the handrails and so on, and then that will begin to look quite nice. Not bad for a £3 loco, I don't think, when it's done. And we'll show you more progress in a moment. So there we go. What we've done is painted that with the brown. I've just done the black roof and the black end, nice and easy. So I put one coat on the dome, but I'm just going to put a second coat on. And all this painting, as I say, has all been done with just a brush and an eye. And then That'll give us a slightly darker colour, because this will take a couple of coats. So we're also going to use this brass then to do the handrails, and we'll see how that looks. I've not tried this before, this technique, but of course if it goes wrong, we've got the advantage that we can simply paint over it. There we go. So the idea is not too much paint on the brush, and just pull it along the raised area there. Okay. So let's try and see. Now these are a bit more problematic because they've lost their definition because of the paint stripper. But let's see what we can do. There we go. It's come out quite nicely. We'll just do the other side. Now this one's not going to work as well because it's been softened by the paint stripper. But actually that's not too bad. It's not as nice and neat as the other one, but that's because the plastic's different. Whereas that one's obviously very neat because the moulding's still there. So we're going to do, I've put the chassis back on to give me more to hold. So let's have a go then at these back ones. These should come up quite nice, because they're very nice and raised. Got a tiny bit of on the brown there, but we can just touch that up in a minute with the brown paint, a bit like sawing the legs off the table where one's always shorter than the other one. But there we go. Doug's just suggested to me, we're just going to see if the ones on the roof will come out. Doesn't matter if they don't, because I can just as easily paint them out again. Actually, that's come out all right. That looks quite nice. Yeah, the other one I'm going to leave because that's a bit faded, but that gives us a nice copper edge to the roof. So all I've got to do now, I've put the chimney piece back on. All I've got to do now is the buffer beams have got a bit of black on. Touch up that little bit of brown there where we've got the bronze. But we've then got a rather nice little 040 Loco. When Doug will put a picture on the screen, a split screen at the end, show you what it looked like when we started and what it looks like when we finish. And I've just had it running around the layout, and it's also a nice little runner. So that's not a bad little Loco for £3. And I've got a cunning plan of a project in the future that's going to use this, which is what it's all about. I've just realised I need to try and do the end here. There we go. And then we've got the catches on the front of the boiler there. All rather nice. Nice little Loco. So there we have it, that's the finished project. So Doug will put some pictures up now of how it started as well. And as I said just now, I'm really rather pleased with that. It's quite a nice looking little Loco, and I think that will serve my purposes very well. And that's basically cost me just under £4, I guess. So it's quite a good cheap little Loco. Hi, thanks for watching the video and for the nice comments. Click on the left for a previous video in this series, click on the right for another video you might enjoy, and please don't forget to click to subscribe, like, comment, etc. Thanks again.